Today's lesson is about how to find the domain from functions. The following functions have a restricted domain. For rational functions, denominator not equal to 0. For square root function or even roots function, radicand is greater than or equal to 0. Radicand means the elements in the square root. For rational square root functions, radicand is greater than 0. For logarithm function, argument is greater than 0. This x called argument or power. We didn't put the linear function or quadratic function, absolute value function, or exponential function into this list because their domain are all real numbers. Now let's look at some example. For number 1, f of a equals a over a squared minus 3a minus 4. We want to find the domain. First of all, you need to analyze this function. We know this is a rational function. For rational function, denominator not equal to 0. This will be the denominator. Therefore, for domain, we will set up as a squared minus 3a minus 4 not equal to 0. This is a quadratic pattern equation. Equal 0 or not equal to 0 has the same way to solve. We do ninja x. We got negative 4, negative 3 over 1 over 1. So we got negative 4, 1. And this is a minus 4, a plus 1 not equal to 0. Therefore, we set up a minus 4 not equal to 0 and a plus 1 not equal to 0. A1 not equal to 4, a2 not equal to negative 1. Therefore, a not equal to 4 and negative 1 will be the domain. In other words, a could be all real numbers except 4 and negative 1. Now let's go to second question. G of x equals the square root of negative 2x squared plus 5x. First of all, we know this is a square root of function. Then radicand is greater than or equal to 0. We figure out negative 2x squared plus 5x is a radicand. So we set up the domain like this. Negative 2x squared plus 5x greater than or equal to 0. Since this is a quadratic inequalities, we need to use a sign diagram to solve. What's a sign diagram? First of all, you need to set up greater than 0 or less than 0. That's your first step. Second step, you need to solve the roots. So negative 2x squared plus 5x equal to 0. Common factor is x. Negative 2x plus 5 equal to 0. Therefore, you got the x1 equal to 0 and a negative 2x plus 5 equal to 0. Then you solve for this one, x2 equals 5 over 2. Then third step, you need to draw number line. Label all the roots on the number line. This is a 0. Here's a 5 over 2. then we will choose easy number. Normally 0, 1, 2, 3, they are called easy number. Since 0 is the root, therefore, we don't use 0, we choose 1. 1 is located in between 0 and 5 over 2, so I put in the box. This is 1. I will plug in this function. So we got negative 2 times 1 squared plus 5 times 1. You will get 3. That is greater than 0. So I write down greater than 0, which means the interval including 1 will be positive. For quadratic function, as long as you have two solutions, then the neighbor interval are opposite. In other words, this interval is negative, this interval is negative, because neighbor intervals are opposite to each other. Then you check, we are looking for greater than or equal to 0, means we need a positive interval. This is a positive interval. Since we have equal sign, so it's close the circle. Therefore, we can write down the solution like this. 0 to 5 over 2, or x greater than equal to 0 or less than equal to 5 over 2. Now let's go to last question. We know this function is a logarithm function. For logarithm function, the argument greater than 0. Then we check. This is an argument. So we set up domain negative 9x plus 1 greater than 0. We call this is a linear inequality. For linear inequality, remember, we use the rule multiply divided by negative number. Then you need to switch the symbol. How to remember this rule? We use mommy, daddy, nanny to remember that. Mommy, daddy, nanny means multiply, divide by negative number. We need to switch the symbol. Since this is a linear inequality, you need to isolate the variable. Then you do mommy, daddy, nanny for that. We subtract 1 both sides. For multiply, divide by negative number, we switch a symbol. In other words, when we add or subtract any number, your symbol stay. When you multiply, divide by positive number, your symbol stay. After you isolate the variable on one side, you got to divide by negative 9 both sides. Then you get the x. This time you got to switch the symbol. Because we divide by negative 9 both sides, then negative will be positive 1 over 9. That's your solution. That's the domain for this logarithm function. Now let's draw a conclusion for some function with a restricted domain, and also for some function we can find the range easily. We just went over all functions with a restricted domain like this. For the following 4 functions, we can find the range easily. For square root function, range is greater than or equal to 0. For power function with even exponent, like x to the 4th and keep going, then the range is greater than or equal to 0. For absolute value function, absolute means positive range. for exponential function, a to the x power means the range greater than 0. Let's look at some example for how to find the range of each function. For number 1, y equals 2 square root of x minus 5 minus 7. First of all, we know this part. Whenever you have square root, means the range is greater than equal to 0. We multiply by 2 for that. That still means y greater than or equal to 0. Then minus 7. So we got the range will be y greater than equal to negative 7. For number 2, y equals negative 3 times e to the 3x minus 5 power plus 4. We want to find the range for this. First of all, whenever you say exponential function, that is y greater than 0. We multiply by negative 3. When you multiply by a negative number, we switch the symbol. So we got y less than 0, then plus 4, which means y less than 4 will be the range. Remember, when you multiply by negative 3, you switch the symbol. In other words, you have to use the mommy, daddy, nanny, that's multiplied divided by negative number, you switch the symbol. Now let's go to number 3. When you say something square means y greater than equal to 0. Then we multiply by negative 1. Remember, you switch the symbol, so we got y less than or equal to 0. Then you need to minus this 5, which means y less than or equal to negative 5 will be the range for this function.